Let me share my screen here. Cool. Well, it's good to see everybody. Welcome to EP Docs Power Hour. Hey, we do this every Tuesday, right? Every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. On the off chance that we don't, we try to make up for it and just bring you a ton of value. But I just want to go through, guys, real quick. There's some announcements as we kick off. Let me see if I can put this in slideshow mode. Cool. Just some quick announcements, guys. Hey, again, just a reminder, if you're licensee, you're the only ones that can get that can earn compensation for any of your estate plans. So just be sure, number one, obviously, if you're a licensee and you're doing the plan yourself, like you're the concierge, right? That'll be automatic because if you're not a licensee, you can't log in and use any of that software. However, if you're working with a concierge like Kyle, who's on the call here with us today, sometimes when we're just working with a concierge, we think that everything's up to date. You have to make sure that your license is active, right? We've had in the past where, maybe you didn't realize and your software license expired, a couple months before, or maybe it expired last month, right? So we had we're always just checking, and sometimes, they'll ask you that. So just always make sure to keep that on tack. So just, all you do is you log in. If you are not up to date, the system will let you know, and then you just update your payment plan again. It's $49 a month, so you can get your compensation of $400 a month for each file that you use our concierge services with. Okay. Next one, guys. This is so important. We talk about this every week. We hear stories about this all the time. Is to share this opportunity of creating an estate plan with your family members. My wife was the first one I spoke to about this when I even learned what estate planning was, right? And I'm still learning every single day. One of our software partners, his sister had passed away just last week. So our condolences go out to Frank. And he was actually at her funeral yesterday. And, I had a chat with him, and, it's a sad time. Anytime you're grieving the loss of a loved one. But one of the main things that he said, and without skipping a beat, he said, "I'm just glad she had a plan in place." Okay. And she lived 3,000 miles away from him, right? Or whatever the distance is between, Florida and Arizona. And so imagine, not having a plan in place and having to travel, not even being like in a general location to be able to help out with someone who does not have a plan. So guys, please, really, location shouldn't be one of the reasons why you do this. It should be because you love your family. So just make sure you do that.
Daryl, hey Pablo, quick question. I'm brand new. This is my first meeting here.
Hey, Rahul.
Uh, how you doing, man? I was wondering, is there a time in the meeting when we set aside for questions?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that towards the end of the call.
All right.
And then you and I, like I said, we're trying to get together, man. I appreciate you reaching out and joining the family.
Well, you might be able to answer it right here. The questions I
What's
have,
that,
I
Ben?
think, are unique to me. I think it could help everyone. All right, cool, man. Carry on.
Great. Yeah, and if it can help everyone, all the better, right? And so these are recorded. Which was another another announcement that I did not post on here. But again, guys, our YouTube channel. So I realize not everyone's got a Facebook account, which is where we tend to keep all of these recordings, is in our private Facebook group. If you haven't joined that, we urge you to do that. And if you don't have a Facebook account, even if it's just to access all the resources that are in that Facebook group, I would go ahead and do that. But it's literally EP Documents under Facebook groups. Kyle, if you're able to grab that link and just drop it in for anyone into the chat. But we also have got a YouTube channel too. So again, if you're on the go and you want to just listen to it, it's probably easier to go and access those that way. I will be out again, shortened week for myself. So if you're trying to get in touch with me on Thursday, Friday, I'm out on a kind of an all day 3-day retreat. So I won't have access to really my phone or any communication. So if you need me and if it's not an emergency, feel free to send me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as either I'm back, early in the day, Monday next week, or you can feel free to reach out to Alex as well. Send him an email, alex@epdocuments.com. Um, and then next is we're just going to talk about today's topic of handling objections. That's going to be the main topic that we'll cover. We haven't done this in, I don't know, gosh, some time. Maybe we've kind of indirectly talked about handling objections, but today we're going to go over like the 5 main objections. So we'll do that. I want to share a quick video. Do me a favor, drop into the chat, by the way, like what objections you get, right? Like what objections you've heard or have gotten, and not necessarily ones that maybe you have overcome them, maybe you haven't, but just drop them into the chat. Let me know what you guys are hearing. And maybe we can cover those as well, but I have a feeling they're probably going to fall under the 5 that we're going to cover in some form or fashion. Aileen says expensive. Okay, good. I always ask, compared to what, right? Compared to what? But yes, okay. Anyone else in the kind of the price objection? And while we're doing that, I'm going to pull up a different share screen here. Join in. Alex, you're going to appreciate this video. So
Okay.
you'll see. So sometimes we just can't get a person to tell us yes, right? And sometimes those people are in our own family. So there's this person in my family who sometimes will just like straight up just want to argue with me. And I know that I'm right. And I know that this person is wrong. And so I was very fortunate to get this actual conversation on video, which I know is taboo. It's like, well, why would you be, recording this conversation? And I'll tell you, it's because it's important that we hear what that conversation looks like. And, but also we'll notice that we can't always win them all. We can't always win them all. So I'm hoping this brings you a little bit of understanding, but also a little bit of entertainment too. Let's take a listen.
I'm not gonna make you happy.
Why? Are you mad? Is that why you're making that face to Daddy? Okay. Are you not mad anymore? You still are mad? Okay.
I'm gonna make you sad.
Why are you gonna make me sad? Why?
Because I'm gonna do that to you.
Oh, you're gonna make me sad? Okay. Can you make me happy? Please. We just want to take a bath, right? Can you go take a bath with Daddy? All right.
I'm mad.
You're really mad? Really, really mad? Or just a little bit mad? Just a little bit.
I'm a yuck.
A lot of bit mad? But why?
Because I'm mad. That means I need to eat. I don't want to take a bath.
Okay. That means you need to eat. What are you going to eat?
Papa's.
Papas. Where are you going to get papas? That's potatoes in Spanish for y'all. Huh? You start making that mad face today.
I'm mad.
You're not mad.
My face is mad.
Your face is mad? But what about your body? Is your body happy?
My body's mad.
Show me how your body's mad.
Yes.
Ooh.
See? My body's mad.
Okay, sorry.
And my arm is mad. And this arm is mad. And my neck is mad. My face is mad. My hair's mad. And my head is mad. And my feet is mad. And my legs are mad. And my knees are mad. And my toes are mad.
Everything is mad?
And my belly is mad too. And my back is mad too.
Oh. Okay. I'm sorry you're so mad. How can we make you happy?
Don't make me happy.
Don't.
Mm-mm. Make me mad.
I don't. You're already mad. I don't want to make you mad.
I'm mad.
Okay.
And I don't want to take a bath.
Where are you going?
I'm going up here.
All right. Thanks for listening to that. But like I said, you can't win them all. You can't win them all. I don't think I gave her a bath that night. I think we just let her slide. But don't let your family members slide. So let me
Hey, so when you say you can't win them all, Pablo, are you talking about you reaching out to cold leads or like in any particular type of lead or anything?
yeah, so that's a great question, Rahul. And I think one of the things about what we share time and time again here when we're talking about leads, when we're talking about helping those people, right? I mean, financial professionals, which is everyone, anyone who's a licensee with us in some form or fashion, you're a financial professional, whether like yourself, I believe, based on your background, they're CPA, right? A tax professional, financial license professional, like insurance professional. You have a book of business. That is really who you need to focus on first and foremost. Like we don't talk on here about, hey, lead systems and how to go out and find, Facebook advertised leads, or marketing to your, like a cold audience. We really talk about talking to your database of clients, right? Because that's where you first and foremost can start. And what will happen is through the estate plan documents process, you'll find referrals. You'll find people that'll just say, hey, you know what? Can you help my sister? Right? She's someone that needs this. I had a client, and generally we'll find that when we help a client, they know somebody that also needs a plan like this in place. And, with literally 80% of the country not having an estate plan in place, it's pretty much everyone you talk to. Like I don't know who the 20% that have them are, to be honest, but that's just going off of like statistics that we find. But that's what we're talking about, right? So it's starting with your own book of business first and foremost, right? And you'll find more than enough business. I'm sure you have a book of business, Raul.
I mean, I've got a small practice of accounting clients. But really I have not done my I mean other folks would call it a P100 list. Now that I'm, offering the trusts, I'm gonna essentially go through my entire phone. I also have I'm part of an online community.
You muted yourself there, bud.
Shoot, I'm sorry. Yeah,
That's okay. Online
I'm
community.
I'm gonna basically put together my P100 list. And I've got a community I'm connected to through basically a comedian turned homesteader. And so we've got our own social media, and I'm gonna essentially reach out to folks on there and just on my phone and individually text them and let them know, hey, um I'm into I've added this new skill set. If you were wondering about, doing one and had any questions, please, reach out to me. So I just haven't done the outreach to the greater, um, just community of people that I know.
Mhm.
That's going to be my first step this week.
Well, that's a great place to start. That's and trust me, you'll find more than enough business. I mean, Alex, how many how many times have we kind of gone over and said, hey, anyone that you're doing an annual review with, anyone that you're literally uh, doing an intake call with, one of the easiest ways to kind of ask one question that checks a box that lets you know that this person needs help in this department is, do you have an estate plan such as your will, your trust, your powers of attorney, your guardianship, right? If they're a parent. And in that simple question, majority of folks are going to say, no, I do not. You literally can check that box, continue with your call as is, and then you can circle back. You can either immediately just say, "Hey, don't worry, we'll get something in place, or we'll introduce you to some folks that can help you with that." Or you can circle back later and just say, "Hey, I noticed you said you didn't have this in place. We can introduce you to our coordinators or concierge service that can literally walk you through what that looks like and how it can help you save some money in putting that in place if you've been considering that, right?" Because what we found is the people that don't have those in place actually have been in some form or fashion thinking about it, interested in doing it. Every client that I had that I asked that to that said they didn't have it, my follow-up question was, would you like me to send you some information over the next week or two? And this is before I even became a part of EP Documents. Is it okay if I just send you a video or some information over the next week or two that might help you save some time, money, and energy? If we can show you a simple process of how we can help you kind of, take care of that important problem,
Oh
right?
yeah, I mean
And they all
Pablo.
said yes.
Yeah, I mean, I set up a Bitly link with it's just a page that has my Calendly scheduler, and then two of the videos that you guys have. There's like that 10-minute one with Alex, and then that 30-minute longer version of Estate Planning 101. So I literally have those right on my link that I'm sharing to folks, and that way they can do both. Super.
Perfect. Yep. Yeah. And there's so many resources, right? And if you're in an online community, um, and again, I count that as your book of business, right? If there's an online community that you've built, guess what? Those are your people. They trust you. Um, and there's so many resources that you can use, right? And again, all those PDFs and even just asking like kind of the right, almost like hook questions, right? Like what are the 7 roles that you need to know about, within an estate plan, um, all those different things. You can take any of our documents and turn them into posts that people will just reply to.
Hey,
Um,
Pablo, can I share my screen and show them a couple of those documents you were talking about?
go right ahead.
All right. So yeah, these are some documents that you can pull off of our Facebook page. It'll be in the guide section.
Yep,
But-
I've got that one there.
Yep. So this is one, when you're sitting down talking to people, just have this form ready. And the easiest thing to do is go, hey, have you done your estate planning such as, and slide it across the table with a pen and tell them to put a check mark next to every one of those boxes they've done. And if they mark any check marks, if they say, oh, well, I did my will. Okay, well, right over here, can you write the approximate date the last time you had that updated? And a lot of times they're going to be like, oh, well, that was 20 years ago. And a very simple question is so how much in your life has changed in the last 20 years? And they're just going to start rambling on about all the things that have changed, people that have been born, people that have died, they moved, they switched jobs. I mean, tons of stuff. And a lot of times they just start going through this. If they've done none of it, they're going to look right at you and go, I've done none of this and we need to do it. And then it's just great. Well, let's work on that. And I don't know how familiar you are with estate plan documents, but Kendra Burnett, she's not on the call today, had some other things going on, but her and I are the concierge here. So feel free to use one of us for your first couple of clients. We'll walk you and your clients through the entire process So you can see it, how it's done, you know, what the structure is, how you do it, how you handle the software, just working with clients. And then usually after that, after seeing a couple of them, you're like, okay, I got a handle on this. And you always know if you got questions, you can reach out to Kendra, myself, Pablo, Alex. We'll always get an answer for you.
Right on.
And then there's another one here is I kind of use this one. This is the estate planning quiz. If you showed them the first one and they're not really sold, then you just say, hey, fill this quiz out. These are some real softball questions. They can just check yes or no to these. It's really hard for somebody to go down and check no to 4 or 5 of these or 8 of them and then still say, nah, I'm not going to do that. And if
Could you share that document? That's one, or do you know the file name of the, is it in the Dropbox? Because I don't think I have that one.
let's see.
All those files are inside of EP Docs in your website.
I have everything in there. What is the file name? Because I have the folder open right here with everything about, let's see. I mean, like 60 things in here.
Kyle, that quiz, I think we've recently reformatted or something because
Okay.
that's a newer one. I don't think that one's in the Facebook group page. Anyway, we'll get that one out. We'll find it and drop it back in here
Great.
for everyone, and then also put it in the Facebook group. But that's a good one. But no, Kyle, so those, I appreciate you sharing those, Rahul. And again, for anyone that's using the online stuff, right? I mean, how many of you have seen, even whether it's reels or TikTok videos, where it's like somebody that's literally walking through, it's either the person with the document behind them, or you almost can do just like you did here, just a screen share and just record that video or even do it live in that community. And then just going through, right? Hey, those 7 different documents saying, hey guys, just real quick, so everyone that knows, anyone that's been considering an estate plan, or wondering exactly what's in it and why you should be looking at one and the importance of it. Let's go through this. Like, here's like 7 main things that I would look for in a proper estate plan, and then go through, right? It starts with the the revocable living trust, which is the centerpiece of an estate plan. And here's what it does. Next thing, power of or living will. Next thing, power of attorney, financial. Next thing, and just literally walk through it. And then just say, hey, at the end, if anyone's got any questions about these, again, I'm not an attorney, but we've got access to an amazing resource that can help you put all this in place. Just send me a note or drop whatever message below, and we'll reach out to you for a quick 30-minute chat, and see if this is right for you. I mean, that's what I would do. Right? That's what I would do. That's how you'll find people that are interested in saying, I need this for myself. Right? So no, I'm glad you did that, Raul. Great questions. That been helpful?
Yeah. And actually, if I could just ask my question now. So
Sure, go right ahead, man.
I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA. And so, and I saw that in some of the videos that you guys are, saying, well, we don't want to even hint at that we're attorneys, and we don't want to practice law without a license, so to speak. So my question is this: what constitutes a legal question? Like, as a CPA, am I afforded? I mean, what can I ask? What can I say I can do? I looked up estate planning, and it seems like that's a realm that CPAs do, that's not just relegated to law folks. And so, Pablo, in your opinion, since you're sort of, you guys are in the driver's seat of this amazing software, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what do you think constitutes a legal question that draws the line versus and for someone who is I've got a license. It's not a law license, but it's something, gosh darn it.
Yeah. And we've got other CPAs that are part of this group as well, and they do very well. And they bring up the same question. What happens is where it starts to get into tricky situations where you just want to be mindful of what you're saying, is, first of all, everyone right off the bat, any client that we work with, they sign an authorization form, kind of a release, if you will, that lets them know, hey, we are not an attorney. We are simply helping you walk through the software, right? So the same way that I don't need to be a CPA to help, my mom or my neighbor go through TurboTax and help them fill that out, right? And if they've got a question, right, I'm not going to give them tax. It's when someone's asking you for what your advice is, right? Like someone can ask me a legal question. I can't necessarily, I can easily tell them, hey, I can't give you advice. What we have done, and Kyle, we do this all the time, right? It's like, here's what we've seen. Here's what clients have done in their scenario, but I'm not giving you advice. I'm not.
All right.
And again, they've already signed that.
So
So
you're
Yeah,
prefacing it just with, I'm not an attorney, but, and then essentially sharing a thought, but with the caveat, hey, I'm not an attorney. Just,
yeah, of course. And again, I mean, you are, and you're right. You're going to have you can have conversations about, it's part of what you do, right? I mean, people talk about taxes and then they'll bring up, their estates. And obviously you're going to be in those conversations. Again, I don't know, how you'll have your conversations when it comes to those, but I would just be mindful that we're not giving legal advice. Can you give tax advice? Absolutely. Can I give tax advice? Absolutely not. Right. I would say you got to talk to someone like Rahul or, or if we've got our, and it's important that we all have our, what I call quality referral partners, right? Like have your real estate professionals, have your tax professionals, have your financial professionals that are in that room so you can always refer them back and make sure you bring them up to speed on what you're doing, right? So Rahul, if you've got that like inner circle of financial professionals, let them know. Like they would be one of the first ones that I'd let them know, hey, I'm probably going to have some referrals for you over the next, over time now because of this service. Let me just quickly kind of share with you what it is. Okay. And then they can be your go-to when it comes to that instead of firing off, estate planning clients to maybe an attorney, right? Now they've got another option. Alex, did you want to add anything on that?
Well, the other side of the coin is if you do feel uncomfortable, if you feel uncomfortable, then don't say anything. To say, hey, I'm going to turn that question over to our people that handle legal questions. We usually get an answer back within 24 hours. So are there any other questions, specific questions you have? So that's the out is we can get answers back. Actually, I got an answer back while Frank was at the funeral. And I was like, dude, you didn't have to answer it that fast. It was actually a very interesting question, but so you do have that opportunity to get those legal questions answered if you should you feel uncomfortable. A lot of the answers relative to what you put in the software, and I love this topic because we are like the pilot of the software. Okay, we pilot the software. We didn't make the software. We didn't, but we pilot the software for them. So when we're filling out the additional information, you have the blue check marks in there that you can press on and simply read it to the client. Now, going back to how easy the process can be, you can make it hard or make it easy on yourself. Have the client do the data forms first. The data forms make it so easy because if they fill out everything in the data forms and then give it to you, then you can enter everything into the estate plan. Boom, it's done. Basically, then you go over with the client specific questions on beneficiaries, bequests, filling it and fleshing it out. Then those are where questions can come up. But what I found in my experience, when you have the data forms, they fill all that out, you avoid a lot of questions. Okay. And then,
so you're basically timing it all. You're sending them the form, they're sending it back. You're letting them know, hey, I'm going to get this stuff inputted, and then I'm going to schedule our follow-up. And we can
yes.
go through
And I
it.
close them, by the way. It's like, okay, so, let's go ahead and get your account started, and you get their debit card, you get all the account stuff going, and then you send them the data forms to fill out. And it's important you get this back within a week because, you know, the time is ticking. You know, we got to get this done in 60 days. So we want to make sure that we expedite the process.
So you're taking that credit card that for end of that first call?
Yeah, I am. I'm closing them, baby. Hey, if they're coming to me and they need this done, hey, I'm here to get it done. So let's get it done. The question too is, how come you waited so long? How come you didn't decide to do this until now? That's a great closing question. How come you didn't decide to do it until now? Because what you're assuming is they want to do it now. And I want to go back to how come it took you this long to get this finally done? Do you see that's a closing question? And that answer to that question makes them pull out their wallet and give you a debit card or credit card. I promise you. I'm a closer. What can I
That's
tell you?
strong. And Alex is a closer. And so he'll get it, you know, at the end of the first call, but no later than Kyle, right? Basically the beginning of that second call, right? If they're on that second call where we're creating the estate plan, we're not moving forward until until that payment has been made.
Yeah.
Right.
I think what Alex says makes sense because if I'm going to actually input the data before our next meeting to save that time and so that you can actually use it as a review rather than them sitting with dead air.
Exactly.
It
Your
just-
documents are created, and actually, Alex, we talked about that, right? Where it's like really that second call shouldn't be a creating the estate plan call. It really should be a reviewing your estate
It
plan
is.
call, right? It's reviewing, which means they've been completed for the most part, based on everything that you've sent in, and now we're just going to review them together. So it's almost like you're showing up to the factory to pick up your car. Your car's done. Like you don't want to go to the factory and watch it be put together. And maybe you do if you're, a car nerd, and that's fine. But most of these people, they're not estate plan nerds, right? They just want to get it done. So that's something else that we kind of played around with and looking at the wording on that.
Hey, Pablo.
Scotty.
Yeah, if I may add something, I just set up the first meeting with a couple, and I got a couple more meetings, but I got this in the initial training, which is really good. I made sure they understood that if they did not have those forms filled out for that first initial meeting for the input, that we would reschedule. And I said, because I want to be respectful of your time, of my time, but I want this to be a smooth process for you and for you to tell your friends about it. And it's the most efficient way to do it. So, and I've done that before when they showed up with half of it done, because you're going to be there forever. They're calling people, they're getting emails, they're trying to look up phone numbers. So, and I've just stuck to my guns and said, well, let's reschedule until you get that done. So I just make sure that's well understood.
Absolutely.
Wait, so hold on. Could we just clarify this just a little bit more? There's two steps, really. There's sending them the PDF of the organizer questionnaire, right? With the assets, liabilities, and questionnaire. And then there's them sending it back filled out. So, Scott or Alex, I mean, are you getting them to create the account when you're sending it to them, or
Yeah,
do you
let me
tell them,
clarify. Just
yeah.
totally clarify. I'm talking about what I do. So when I meet with them, I do the assumptive close. I say, let's go ahead and get your account opened up. So I'll need your debit cards, $1,995, blah, blah, blah. So let's just go ahead and get your account started. So I get their account started, which is getting their information and then taking care of it. And I say, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you the data form. I need this form filled out before next meeting, so I can input everything into your estate plan. Now, there are two questionnaires. The data form is all their beneficiaries, everyone who's going to be involved in their trust, their living will, advanced directive people, and their financial healthcare power of attorney people, etc. So you don't send them the funding data form yet. because there's two phases. The first phase is to get the estate plan done first and the funding done second. So the estate plan part is the first data form that has all the detailed information. So you send that to them. They fill that out. They get it back to you. It takes 15 minutes on your part to fill everything in. Like, it doesn't take long, I promise you. Then you set up a Zoom call with them or set up a meeting and say, okay, now let's review what I have in here, and then let's make some other decisions, which are bequests and the beneficiaries, how much they each get, and so on. And then the part that, in my opinion, that is the living will advance directive. The advance directive and the organ donation, for some reason, that takes the longest because they got to figure out how they want to die. We don't have those in the questionnaire. So that's the part that takes the most time. By that time, it's about half an hour and you're done with that piece and you feel pretty good about this. Boom. Okay, I'm going to send you the documents to be signed, witnessed, and notarized. So you send it in a PDF form. They get it signed, witnessed, notarized. They send them back to you, and then you get them uploaded into the document vault, and then you make it look pretty, stick it in a binder, all that, and send it to them. Then you book the trust funding call. So Joe and Mary, next thing we need to do is we need to fund your trust. It's the most important part of the estate plan is funding the trust with all your assets. So I'm going to send you a data form that you can list all your assets and count numbers and blah, 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 blah. Because it's, again, you don't want to spend time for them to go look that stuff up. Then you set up the time to fund the trust, which is govern all their assets, putting it in, and then trust is funded. So that's the flow. Does that make sense, Raul?
And yeah, could we actually clarify? And so we've got the Schedule A, assets and liabilities, and then we have the questionnaire. So that's all the first thing we're sending out.
No, no. The asset liabilities is after they get the estate plan signed, witnessed, and notarized.
Yeah, that questionnaire is first, Raul. That's literally the only thing we need in order to create their documents is that questionnaire, not the asset and liabilities. That's after. So we got to create the estate plan and the trust first. And then, like Alex mentioned, that's when, okay, Raul, here's your documents. Here's your completed documents, right? Now the next step is we're going to go ahead and fund those documents. So I'm going to send you over an asset liability form. You got to get that filled out. Make sure that now that one is ready for our next call. And usually we'll give them about a week, right, Kyle? I mean, they can figure out how much time they need to gather all of that stuff because they got to go digging for accounts and all their different assets and everything. And then so for that call, then we set up all the funding documents, okay, including retitling their assets so that they're pointed to the trust.
So the first initial thing that we're requesting is just the questionnaire with the beneficiaries, the guardians, the successor
roles,
trustees,
correct.
and then after, well, at the basically the homework for when they're done with that second call and you've created the trust is they're getting the documents. One, they're getting the documents notarized. You're giving them that checklist. And two, they're filling out the assets and liabilities. And you guys, from your experience, it sounds like you're saying that it takes them a little, if you were to give that to them right in the front, that it might actually delay the process.
Yeah.
And they're actually, so it's almost like they're buying in, investing their time already, giving the beneficiaries, giving thought to the guardianship, giving thought to the power of attorney. And then since they've already expended all this time, okay, now this is the next wave. We're not burning them out by giving them all these people questions and then all these asset questions. We're actually saving that for a second conversation. And so psychologically, they've bought in. And I mean, this is the stuff that we can use if, we're insurance brokers or, have other things. Okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
Okay.
And it's overkill. I mean, if you try to get them to fill all that stuff out by the first call, and then it's also time wise for a concierge or even yourself to try to create the documents, and then also in that same call fund the trust. I mean, you're talking about 2.5 hours, potentially 3 hours worth of work, depending on how many assets they have. They're not going to stay on that. They're gonna pull the plug, so to speak. So yeah, so we do set it up. And again, Rahul, I appreciate, and for everyone that's listening in, right, this is a great review for anyone, or if you're newer, I appreciate you going through this with us. But really, our process is a 4-step process, right? That first call is that discovery call, right? What is an estate plan? Does it make sense for you? Like, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And that's a 30-minute conversation that we're finding out to make sure that the client needs this, wants this, and then we're going to provide this for them. And at that point, you can take payment information, and then you send them the form, that questionnaire, to have it filled out for then step number 2, which is we'll call it the reviewing the estate plan.
Wait, can you just, Pablo, can you add in what is the homework after each of these steps? So what is the homework or the ask, or what is the actionable step the client must take after that first discovery call?
So that first discovery call is filling out that questionnaire that we're going to send to them. It's a secure jot form link that they can fill out all the information. It comes right back to you. Okay.
And is it also taking that payment?
Well, that wouldn't be homework, because that would be done on that first call.
Okay. And take payment. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I would take payment at the end of the first call. Otherwise, there's no need to send anything out or go on to the second call, right? And so then second call is where then you are, by the second call, you have then input all the information from the questionnaire into their estate plan. You've actually gone into the software and just put in the answers, which all correlate with the sections of the estate plan. Input all of that, review it with the client online. You're doing it in a Zoom call, right?
Follow-up question. When are you asking them to decide on the name of the trust? Because that's one of these things, once you create it, you can't change it. So is that when they're handed that questionnaire at the end of that first call?
They're deciding it in the questionnaire.
Yeah.
And Kyle, you want to speak to that? Because I know sometimes people are, they say they want to add the word the, or they want it to be the first and last name, or just the last name.
Can you create the account and make the payment? Do they have to name the trust right then and there when they're making the payment?
No. Yeah. One of the
Hold on.
Actually, the one I recently did, you don't have to do the name of the trust until after you start filling the estate plan information, once you get the documentation from them. But when you're getting the credit card information, they can sign up. It's just getting the account ID and password set up, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, no trust name or date doesn't happen when you take the payment and you open their account. It happens when you go into the account and then start putting in all their information.
So they can take that time when they're filling out the questionnaire to come up with a name that they
Yes, correct.
want. Okay.
And the thing to tell them too is some people like privacy, so you don't have to put your name in the name of the trust. It's not necessary. Some people like their privacy, so they call it something else, but it doesn't have to be their name. And then other people like to put, the ABN Family Trust, so they have both choices. And I've heard advantages to either one. Like some people, people don't want others to know that they have a trust, so they don't put their name anywhere in it, but they'll name it something that means something to them. And that's what makes it a legal entity, is the name plus the date. So when the last grantor dies, it becomes a legal entity, which the secondary trustee will apply for a tax ID number, right? So those are things that make it a legal entity. And that's when it goes into force. It becomes irrevocable at that point. And so up until that point, it's not an entity until the last grantor dies. Then it becomes the legal entity that pays debts and gets taxed and et cetera, et cetera.
That actually brings up my other question that I had. As a tax person, I'm wondering, when is that EIN number made?
After the last person dies, that's part of the responsibility of the secondary trustee who takes over, is they apply for an EIN number.
And why is it that we're waiting until that time and that we're not just doing that? Because I've done, gotten an EIN number. It takes 5 minutes, on the
Right.
IRS website. Is there like a legal reason or
Well,
something
because a
like
trust
that?
doesn't become a legal entity until a grantor dies. That's the definition of a living trust, is that during the time both grantors are alive, it can be changed. It can be, because it doesn't activate.
Right. Revocable.
Right. It's revocable. So then when the last person dies, then boom, that's when it takes on the character of an entity. That's why when some people ask, I should have to file this somewhere, right? It's like, no, you don't have to file it. The only time it kicks in is when the last person dies. Then you have to file for an EIN number, and that's when it takes on an entity. So
Okay, I just wanted to give a shout out, Patricia Gudino. She's the one who actually I heard about your platform from her. She was on a podcast with I forget the gentleman's name, but and so
Yes.
anyways, I was talking with Patricia yesterday and I asked her that question and she said, pose it to the room here. Okay, so here's another follow-up question. So it seems like the role and the responsibilities and really the task list of this successor trustee is really such a immensely it's a huge role. So do you guys, as one of the documents or something in the Dropbox, do you have that successor trustee task list upon point of death? Because I think that would be another I think it would just create so much transparency and to explain all of those responsibilities and to have that stuff to have them understand it.
The answer to that, Raul, is yes.
Mm-hmm.
We have a document. It's called step-by-step instructions for the successor trustee. This is something we created a while ago. We recommend you print these off and put them in the back of the binder in every single trust you do. And I'll share my screen real quick so you can see that document.
Yeah, if you could share that link. Again, I don't see that in the Dropbox documents. And I really, really want to see that. I'm actually dying to see that one.
It's just 2 pages. This is the first one. And then the next
I'm
one is
losing
just
sleep because I haven't seen it yet. I'm like, what is in there? I need to know this because there's so much.
Yeah. So these are pretty generic instructions, but like, number 1, notify all family members and beneficiaries of the passing. Number 2, get a tax ID number for the trust. Number 3, notify all agencies and businesses. Number 4, get assets appraised. Number 5, distribute any bequests. Number 6, pay off any remaining creditors. Number 7, contact CPA to file final tax return. Number 8, distribute assets and remaining estate items. It just gives that successor trustee a list to follow, so that way they're not walking into it completely blind. They at least have this.
If you could share that document, I'd be very grateful.
Awesome, Ro. Hey, man, and spoken just like a CPA, right? He wants to make sure like all these things are visible so that you can be transparent with a client. That's what we try to do, with all the documents and everything. But again, remember, these are just things that a client would ask for and want to know. And as a financial professional, tax professional, you'd want to be able to provide those solutions. Now, remember, it's not your responsibility to make sure all those things. That's the successor trustee. That's their responsibility to make sure that they handle that, right? And that's something that
Pablo, this is me selling myself.
Mm-hmm.
Me as a client who's the service wanting to know those answers.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know the answers to answer to myself.
Right.
When-
Well, it's good. Well, then you'll be not only the president of the club, you'll be a client as well.
exactly. And I intend to, by the way.
And I was going to say the president of Hair Club for Men, because that was where that I think I first heard that. Um, and I'm also a client myself. So
I saw in one of the videos you said there's a special link or something if we wanted to get the trust for ourselves as a subscriber. There's a we can get it for $500. Do we just email?
yeah. Yeah,
So
that was a special that we ran, and we'll generally do that like once in a while. However, that is not currently a promotion that we're doing right now. If you want to do it on your own, you could do it at 997 $995, I guess it is. And where you forgo any of your commissions on that. Okay. Or if you use our concierge and it's at 1495.
okay.
Um,
And if we have legal questions, what are those? What's the quickest turnaround way to get that answer?
Yeah, 24 to 48 hours. Generally, like, and by the way, weekends do not count. So I don't expect to hear back from a legal team over the weekend or even myself, although sometimes I do try to get back to folks as soon as I can.
Is there a phone number or an email or
You just send an email right to, you can send it right to me, Pablo at epdocuments.com, or info at, and there's a couple, couple stop gaps in place. And again, like for example, this Thursday, Friday that I won't be in, that you can send those into.
Hey, Pablo,
Yes, sir.
there's also, and it's not as detailed as what Kyle showed, but it's also in the documents when you're going through it, roles and responsibilities, the successor trustees and who's in it. And I would usually print that off. And like we just did mine with my mom and my brother. And that's really good to remember to have that roles and responsibilities meeting with the family so everybody will know what's going on and it'll lead to other estate plans.
Referrals.
Very good. Yep. Yeah, and I think that was so Rahul, I'm not sure if you ever do this, right, where you have a tax client, and then maybe they have business partners or family members that are part of the conversation as well. So something we encourage is to do, a family call, right? A family meeting where we will go over those roles and responsibilities for everyone that's in that trust on either in person or in like a Zoom call. And generally what will happen there is we're just going through and saying, hey, Rahul, you are the power of attorney for, financials. Alex, you're the power of attorney for healthcare. Kyle, you, Rahul, and Alex are also beneficiaries. And so in that conversation, you're basically letting everyone know what they are, what that role entails. And what we'll find is that somebody will raise their hand and say, hey, well, is this something you can help me and my family with? Right? Maybe that brother's on a call and they've been thinking about doing this. And all of a sudden, here we are.
Now, I think we got just sidetracked. You were going through you said there were 4 calls. So is that the 4th call?
No, so there's really only 3 calls, right? First call is the discovery call. Second call is where we're creating or / reviewing the actual estate plan, all the documents, right? And getting them printed out and sent out to the client. And
So
then
the homework at the end of that is they're getting it notarized and they're filling out the
exactly.
liability.
Signed, witness, notarized on whatever documents require them. And then they're also filling out that asset and liability form for that then third call.
And do they have homework on their homework at the end of that 3rd call is to do the legwork to move the deeds, titles, and names of bank accounts into the
They're essentially when it comes to those titled assets, we're helping them kind of set those up using an online network called DeedWorks for their property. There is some homework in regards to depending on their property and casualty insurances, if they need to present any of those. Again, it's state specific. or what else am I missing? Bank accounts, like transfer on death letters and things like that. They will know based on that call what letters and what documents need to be provided to their financial entities. Is that or financial institutions? Is that right, Kyle?
Say that again.
They'll know which documents need to be based on, again, what state requires them, needs to be either, given to like their car insurance company or the motor vehicle department, so forth. Yeah. Not every state is the same. So that's when.
Correct. The only one that really changes is vehicles. Some of the states you have to file it with the title department. Some of them you just file it through their auto insurance. But when the system generates that document, you just look at the language and it'll tell you where it needs to go.
Yep. And then that would that's the funding the trust call, Raul. And so again, and really, I mean, at that point in time, they're essentially getting those documents to the right financial institutions. And then as far as the deed works or the retitling of the real estate, they're essentially just waiting for those. Yeah, let me mute that out. They're essentially just waiting for that process to kind of funnel through that retitling process, which again, depending on what state, depending on what county, it could be as quick as 60 days. It could be as long as several months. And again, you can actually get
I've got guys delivering
expedited service.
fruit trees. I'll be right back in like 30 seconds.
All right. But hopefully this has been helpful for everyone as far as a review. And then, I'll just mention it while Raul is out, but the last step isn't a call, right? The last step isn't a call. It's really actually something that happens congruently, at the same time as everything else. And that's getting everything buttoned up. What I call handing over the keys, similar to when you're purchasing a house with a real estate agent. You can ask that agent to take you to the house multiple times and they have to go and let you in. But at the end, when you finally when you're finally settling on that house, Raul, that last step isn't a phone call. It's something that happens at the same time, which is basically just buttoning everything up with the client. Again, I kind of use the analogy of, if you're purchasing a home and you're going through however long that process takes, 30, 60 days to purchase a house, you're kind of checking in with your real estate agent. You can even go see the house if you want multiple times. But at the end, when you finally settle is when you get the keys handed over to you. And then you're, as a concierge or even as a licensee, you're saying, hey, listen, this plan it's now yours. Like, I can't go into it and update it. You're more than welcome to do that as many times as you want, because you're going to change your username and password, or your password rather. I can't go into your home anymore unless you invite me back in. And now you have this estate plan created. Okay. And they can actually lay their heads down knowing that they have taken care of this. And then of course you want to make sure that they're setting up their annual reviews with you, right? So not just taxes, but hey, what in your life has changed?
So
property, do you have new things that we need to add to this plan?
this family responsibilities group call, would you recommend doing this before handing them the keys, so to speak?
That's a great question. Kyle, how would you, or Alex, I guess we had a call on this. I guess it's just really on the availability. I mean, that's my thought. What are your thoughts on that? Like when you would do a family planning call, before or after everything's done?
After everything's done and buttoned up, I wouldn't like mess around with anything until get the first part done and then get the second part, get all the parts done of a estate plan and then set up the family meeting. Now, do not disclose any beneficiary information, who gets what and when they get it. That's all. You don't want to mess with that because that'll be messy. Just go over the responsibilities of the trustee, the financial and healthcare powers of attorney responsibilities with your agent, because that's who will explain that. And basically they're reading what's in the software, basically, is what they're doing, just to inform people of their responsibilities. But in no way would you want to get into disclosing the beneficiaries and what they get and who they kept in the inheritance, who they kept out of the inheritance, that you don't
Really
want to get into that.
This is really to communicate that successor trustee task list, really.
Well, that and there are responsibilities for the financial and healthcare powers of attorney. When they're incapacitated, they're responsible to make financial decisions or healthcare decisions. Then, of course, learning them too, there is a living will. So, whenever their parents go into the hospital, they need to have a copy of their living will advance directives because the hospital, when they check them in, they're going to ask for that, right? So they always need to have a copy of that on hand. And then really all the kids should have a copy of that as well, in my humble opinion.
Mhm.
But for sure, the healthcare power of attorney. So it's not just the successor trustee. While that's important, it's the whole roles and responsibilities of everyone involved.
Yeah.
Okay, so the successor trustee is the after death stuff, but that's not the only thing. It's also the living will, advanced directives, one, you could say, and then the medical power of attorney and the financial power of attorney, which are all things that happen while the person is still living.
Still living, but
Incapacitated.
incapacitated and can't make decisions. And sometimes, people automatically will name their spouse as that person. And there's a case to be made that sometimes maybe that's not the person you want to have, as the power of attorney. So it just depends on the family dynamic. That spouse could be so emotionally distraught or could have dementia that maybe it really ought to be a son or daughter or someone else, so you really got to confront them with the notion that maybe the spouse is not the best choice. But then again, that choice can be changed later. So for example, if the spouse gets dementia or Alzheimer's, then this is where they need to be cognizant of changing who that agent is in their estate plan. So this is an active document. This is something, if you have clients that you're doing annual reviews with, or if you're doing, if they're continuing to be a client in other things you're doing, then you need to have these discussions. And if they're just an estate planning client, hey, check in with them every year. Hey, has anything changed? So.
And so that actually brings up another question I had with Patricia yesterday. What happens? This is more of like a first and second call question, but what if they don't have like a lot of family? What if they don't know, hey, who I can even have as a successor trustee? Like what if they're not married? What if they have, or what if they are married and it's just, or what if it's a person and the unmarried person and their brother with cancer, and like do they just put each other as like, what do you do if there's not a ton of other people?
Well, they can always resort to, like if they don't have anybody that could be a successor trustee, they could list their bank as that. I mean, it's not ideal, but in the lack of other options, you can do that. Same thing with like a power of attorney. So there are a couple of situations I've ran into where somebody kept an extremely small circle. And I mean, those options are available. It's not something I'm really ever going to recommend, but if they genuinely believe there are no other options, it's a whole lot better than nothing.
And I'm just throwing this out there because me and Patricia discussed this. What are your thoughts on, especially if we're doing this at a local and community level where we know the people and they came to us because they know us, but we're, not related to them in any way. And they say, hey, can you do it? Me, or the person who's helping, the concierge, really, who's that point of contact in their community. They don't know anyone else who knows the estate planning stuff as well as us. And they ask us to do it. would you ever consider it? What would you charge for something like this? Like, what's the consideration, so to legally speaking, that we would want to have for such a huge, huge role?
Hmm.
That's really gonna kind of be something you've got to answer yourself. I can tell you for me, I would consider that a bit of a conflict of interest. And I would say, no, I'm not gonna fill that role.
Why, why do you
But
see
there-
of interest, by the way? I'm curious the train of thought.
Well, just simply because I have a professional relationship with them and they're not, I mean, if it's my brother, if it's my parents, my sister, okay, that's one thing. If one of my grandparents asked me to do that, or if one of my best friends asked me to take that role, okay. I've got a long-standing personal relationship with them long before I got into doing this. But if one of my clients that I just met is like, hey, would you be my trustee? Like, no. I to me, that's a conflict of interest there because I don't have that long-standing personal relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
in other words, if you don't want to offend them, you can use the conflict of interest reason.
Yeah.
Okay, but in certain instances, if you're a financial professional that's been serving them over years and years and years and years, then it's up to you, right? There's no laws saying that you cannot do it. There's no conflict of interest laws that prevent you from doing it. It's just, are you willing to do it? Now, when it comes to, do successor trustees get paid? Absolutely. It could be 1% to 5%, just usual and customary in your state. Some states limited. You just got to find out in your state what is usually usual and customary for the successor trustees, because you are allowed to, as a successor trustees, take a percentage of the portion of the assets to pay you for what you do. Because as Kyle's mom knows, it is a ton of work if you don't have an estate plan. But even if you have one, there's a lot of work there. So, so that this is where it's important to understand that your successor trustee, they do need to know what their responsibilities are, but at the same time, they need to know that they are going to be compensated, and you can put it in the estate plan in the back part of it to have the grantor even spell it out. Okay.
Very good. Very good. Raul, we are open. I'm open to, again, another side conversation, and I appreciate everyone jumping on. And I'm actually glad we went in this direction today. So thanks for jumping on. We're over our time. Appreciate everyone that stayed on.
One last second question, if you could. When do you ask for the referral? Do you do this after the family responsibilities group call and when you're handing the keys back to them? Or like when?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they'll come up, Raul, and we've got a lot of videos, training videos on things like on exactly that question. But it's one of those where, Kyle, I mean, we've even seen where people bring it up before we ever even ask. We don't even ever generally have to ask. They'll just say, hey, can you help my mom with this too?
Yep.
Right.
One of the most popular places, Raul, is when you're doing the signing and notarizing, because one of the things we talk to a lot of folks about is we recommend being the notary, because that way you just bring that process in-house, but you control it. But when they have to bring in those two witnesses that are not named in the trust, you get done signing and notarizing it. And then I'll just ask them, hey, I'm just curious, how did this process compare to when you did your own estate plan? 95% of the time they haven't done it. And even if they have, either way, it kicks off a conversation. And then you can just, eventually it circles around to, hey, does Tuesdays at 11 a.m. typically work for you? Can I swing by your house? Give me like 30 minutes. And it's either, if they say they've already done it, hey, let me review your stuff to make sure it's up to date. Or it's, let me explain more about this process so you can see if this is right for you.
The other thing too is to hold, and like I said, man, I'll close. So during the meeting, you say, so, to their children, Joe and Mary, you've got 3 kids.
Yeah.
Your parents if they got an estate plan, do you think it might be a good idea for you to get one too? Like, ask them. What are they going to say? You've already been through. You explained everything. You know, it's like, get a clue, dude. You're going to tell me no in front of your parents. They thought it was a good idea. Like, so, man, I use social pressure to close them too. So don't be a wimp. Like, seriously, do it nicely, right? But don't back off, man. This is your chance when at the height of an opportunity, when everyone's together on a Zoom call or everyone's over at mom and dad's house, you just suggestive selling. Hey, by the way, your parents did this. You've got, you know, you have 3 kids and a wife. You think it's probably a good idea for you, right?
Yeah, I heard that when you're getting the notarization, you just congratulate them. Hey, congratulations for getting this done, you know? And I guess that could lead right into that.
But you're also going to have times where when you get over to their house, or when they come to your office or whatever it is, they're going to go, "Oh, Raul, before we get started, I was talking to my brother. I was talking to this lady at work. They really want to do this. Here's their number. Can you give them a call today?" You don't get a ton of it. You're not going to be overflowing with those, but they happen. And I'm telling you, when you get those, I mean, those folks are waiting for your call. So you call them up. I mean, if they don't answer, you leave them a message, and within an hour, they're getting you back. Hey, yeah, absolutely. When can we sit down?
Right on. Raul, you were the man of the hour today. I expect next week you're coming back and you're saying, all right, I got these 5 people lined up. And hey, maybe we might even talk about some of the objections that you've heard, since that was supposed to be today's topic. But this was much better.
I actually have a woman who, right before talking to Patricia, a woman called me like 3 minutes before, and I'm going to talk to her at 12:30 right after this call here. So we'll see. I'll let you know.
Awesome. Well, hope it's been helpful for everyone that's been on, including it's been helpful for us. It's been a great review, so I appreciate what we do. And hey, next week we'll tackle the objections conversations. But y'all have a wonderful rest of your week. Make it productive, and appreciate what you guys doing. Thank you, everybody.